I've got a really awesome case study. Back in 2021, during the severe lockdowns in Melbourne, I had a guy come to me because his alcoholism has relapsed. His wife was giving him an ultimatum. So work on this or else, right? He started seeing me for his relapsed in alcoholism. And when we started see how the body works is that something went anchored in your body when you're young, right? I needed to find a relationship to what alcohol means to your body. And we did about 6 to 7 sessions and we finally found the memory. And the memory was him escaping his very abusive father. He ran across to a mate's place and the other father, the mate's father, was there at home, patched him up and said, "It's okay, mate."
G'day, Dr. Tony here with another episode of Realms of Power. And today I'm joined by Fay Chan, who is in Melbourne and is an EFT practitioner. So Fay, welcome to the show.
Hello, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, it's great you're here. And you've been involved in personal growth for a long time now, and you've applied the EFT technique, which we'll go into. But for our listeners, just to give some background of how you've gone into what you do, can you give us some backstory of how you found yourself doing this modality?
Sure. I've actually known about EFT tapping. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And I've known about it for about 15, 20 years prior to me being interested in certifying in it. So because I was from a personal development world, I've got to know one of the participants who is a trainer. And so it came about 2018. And at that time, I was a new mum. I was a budgeting consultant, so helping households plug up their black holes. But I was struggling to get clients because as much as people all said they wanted financial literacy and needed to clean up their numbers, they were very confronted and in the stranglehold when it came to coughing up their numbers. So I thought, why don't I swap pipelines from the emotional the strategic pipeline of a budget and saying do this and not do that and bring your budget back to balance through to the emotional pipeline, which is EFT. And because I'm really well versed in that pipeline, given my personal development background. So I certified in 2019, and then the floodgates opened for COVID through 2020 onwards. So I've been doing EFT full time since.
Okay, great. And for the listeners that might have, again, heard of it, a lot of people have heard of tapping or some people haven't even. Can you give our listeners just sort of a brief summary of what it actually is and how it works?
Okay, so it's a East meets West modality. The eastern part being acupressure points or meridian points. So I'm assuming your listeners will be familiar with that, right? So instead of acupuncture, which is needles in those specific points, we're using our fingers to pulse on those points, therefore tap. So that's why it's known as tapping. And then by the same token, we're utilizing Western psychology. So that's CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and exposure therapy to deliberately trigger and talk about what's stored in our bodies. Because you might have a block, and that could be just, the 10% of the iceberg that's above the water, and you come and discuss the block. But it's actually held in your body and held in your subconscious mind. And we access that through the tapping. Because when you're tapping, you're actually sending an electrical signal to your amygdala to help calm yourself whilst you're talking about it. So that's how you access the stored reserves in your body and your mind as to where the angst or the block is. So that's why it's an East meets West modality.
Yeah, it's a beautiful description. And for people that don't know about acupuncture, they know about needles and they may have heard of meridians. But in the acupuncture philosophy, if one of those meridians is blocked to one of the channels in their body, it's really important where they put the needle. It's not that they put the needle in well, because if they unblock something, that needs it, they're going to improve. But if they block something that don't needs it, they're going to potentially make it worse. So does that same principle happen in tapping? If someone just thinks, oh no, I can just go and do some tapping on my arm, but they might be tapping the wrong area. Is that a thing?
No, in clinical EFT, there's 9 points that's been clinically tested 300 plus times in, double blinds, in control groups and what have you. And there's specific points around your body that utilizes majority of the meridian lines.
Yep.
Right. So it's not just tapping on any point, because we're not acupuncturists ourselves, but there's an algorithm of 9 points that will teach you, so that you're tapping there whilst repeating the statements back to yourself or me.
Mm.
So it's not just a random point. And there's certain points that what we call energy or psychological reversal points that I would say to clients, tap here. If you're just out and about, you're driving and some person cuts you off and you get a bit angsty and you want to calm yourself down, that's the point you go to tap on, even whilst you're driving, even whilst you're already triggered. That's the point. You're already triggered, and they're tapping on that specific point will bring it down a few notches. So you don't need to crash your car. You're more clear and more calm. Continue with your driving, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. But it isn't. It isn't there to replace. It is self-regulation, but it's not self-healing. You're not here to heal yourself from something. I would recommend going to see a health practitioner for that, or in this case, an acupuncturist, right? But if you want to unhook something that's quite emotionally entrenched, just by tapping on yourself and following a video doesn't mean miracles fall into your life. You have to actually turn up to a session and do the work, right? Do the unhooking, do the understanding how you hooked up all the meanings to it and therefore created your own belief or disbelief for life. And that's your truth. And we're going in to literally reinstall that particular virus that went into your brain or your body as to how it got anchored. So that type of work isn't self-regulation. It's actually healing work, which is quite transformational. And we're dealing with trauma, right? Not trauma like a crisis trauma, but even emotional incidents that are wounding to you is called traumatic. And I wouldn't suggest that you do that for yourself, because you're too close to the trees the context is too inward for you to even realize that.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great description, because for a lot of people, they don't realize the attachment mechanism of their behavior comes from something. And that's just as important, because if you're not actually dealing with that, you're just really tapping randomly. So the tapping itself, that blend and the description used at the start is just amazing. So for people that want to turn their power on, what are some examples of some of the things you've really helped with for people that might feel like they're out of power? They're, like you said before, triggered by something, or they're in that state of freeze in the nervous system where they're just stuck. They can't speak or they can't act. And afterwards they can go, oh, I wish I'd done that in the moment. How does
Yes.
the tapping help with those sort of scenarios?
Well, I've got a really awesome case study. Back in 2021, during the severe lockdowns in Melbourne, I had a guy come to me because his alcoholism has relapsed, and his wife was giving him an ultimatum. So work on this or else, right?
Mm.
And he started seeing me for relapsed in alcoholism. And when we started see how the body works is that something went anchored in your body when you're young, right? I needed to find a relationship to what alcohol means to your body. And we did about 6 to 7 sessions, and we finally found the memory. And the memory was him escaping his very abusive father, who ran across to a mate's place. And the other father, the mate's father, was there at home, patched him up and said, "It's okay, mate. It's all right. Grab a seat." And back then, cracked open a beer for a 15-year-old, handed it to him and said, "Just watch TV. You're good. It's all going to be all right." So he's taken care of by this other dad who told him it's going to be okay, but cracked open the beer at the same time. So in that moment, and it's always fast and momentary, he went, oh, the ease from the stress came with fear.
Mm.
And so fast forward to 2021, he's a grown man, has a family, right? And it's severe lockdowns. And that would frighten anybody at that time, especially in Melbourne. And so he started drinking again, right? And that didn't work. But since finding that memory, unhooking the anchors and making sure that his relationship to alcohol is now different. I bumped into his wife last October, so October 2025, and she confessed with me he has not touched a drop since.
Wow.
Right. So I need to find the virus that got installed into your brain, and you put it there. Right.
Yep.
It could be someone else doing something to you or saying something to you, but your interpretation is the installation. And you collect evidence over time, and a lot of evidence across a lot of decades. And then here you go going, oh, I'll just do some positive thinking and I'll unhook it myself. Doesn't work that way. And so with issues like that, you know, even on, I work with some matter therapists, and I'll go, with a client comes to you and you emotionally release a part of their body that is holding the emotion, and all they do is release and cry. They still don't know what it is, right? Because the body feels it and releases it, which is great. But what EFT does really well is that if that person, that client comes to me and I work with the body to find out what it is, you'll eventually find the memory that was anchored there. And then in the release is when you're cognitively present to what's happening and what's not happening. And it's faster. It's a faster, what do you call it? Healing cycle.
Mm.
Yeah. So it
So
works wonderful
interesting.
that way.
Yeah, so interesting. And look, being in Melbourne, obviously COVID was a very, very difficult time, and Melbourne, Victoria definitely copped it very strongly. And in retrospect now, I would imagine there's quite a lot of people that are still triggered. I'm actually on the Sunshine Coast,
Mm,
and we talk about the inflow of people. There is so much inflow of Melbourne people to the Sunshine Coast because
understand.
they got triggered, they got affected by the lockdowns and what happened. How many people have you worked with there that are still running the energy of the psychology of the lockdowns and whatever else happened?
It's coming up more in students than it is in adults,
Yep.
right? With with adults, I I don't know about cognitive dissonance, given the information and the realities of what we know now. And if I push in on that, the nervous system works in a very funny way, just completely withdraws. So I don't broach that subject a lot unless they broach the subject with me first, because then the nervous system's prepared to. Because there's something about cognitive dissonance that's very confronting for people. They don't even know they're confronted by it. They just know they have a freeze response and then they remove themselves. Yeah. But having said that, parents do see the impact on, or the school lockdowns having had on their children, on their
Mm,
school refusal, on social interactions, on their confidence. With little ones, so they weren't allowed to socialize, and that's how you learn, right? That's how part of the body is learning, with interaction, with playing on the playground, being at daycare, or being looked after by grandparents. And if kids weren't able to access that, you could see they're very shy kids or they're highly anxious kids.
mm,
So yeah, I do work with children and teens if you can get them in front of me. And yeah, you still see that now, a bit of the school refusal, but highly sensitive and anxious kiddies. Yeah.
mm. So yeah, look, a lot of people do suppress certain things, and I'll be right, I'll just get on with it, that sort of mentality.
Yep.
But they've got to choose at the end of the day whether they want that support, whether it's through tapping or any modality for that matter.
Mm.
And how would you inspire people to go, if there is something that's trapped, stuck, locked down in their body, whether it was related to that thing that happened or something, like you said, a childhood trauma,
Yep.
how,
Yep.
how would you inspire them to say there is a way? I love the word freedom. You've got emotional freedom technique. And the
Yes.
third part of realms of power is having more freedom in your life. How do you inspire people to have more freedom in their life with your technique?
It's about inspiring them with what they don't want to experience. Yeah. Because like a mum that's in burnout, it's she's always hyper vigilant. She's not okay until the son or the kid's okay. She's reliant on wine, half a bottle a night. She's always just on. She can't switch off, and therefore there's a vice for the wine at night. And she's like a deer in headlights every single day. And then the symptoms are that she gets brain fog. She can't sleep properly, can't even eat properly, or can't even look after herself, and she comes last. So when people know that it's something that they have to shift there, and it's as much as it's about relaxation, eating well, doing Bikram yoga, going for walks and what have you, there's a wiring in them that they know they can't quite put a finger on. They know that it doesn't matter how well I am, I will still repeat those patterns. And here I am waking up 9 months later, I'm in the same state. And that's when I'll go, well, could you imagine? And I'm working with a mum with burnout at the moment. And all of a sudden, 2 months of burnout. And they go to me, I don't know what it is, but he was so good through school holidays. He went to all the day camps. He was so easy through all the medical appointments. And I was like prepared for like, oh my gosh, like, I'll be like walking a short wire. She's like, but they're so well behaved. I don't understand. And it's results like that keep turning up. It's because they've rewired their nervous system. They're a lot more calmer as a mum, a lot less hot tempered, and the and the difficulties are still there. So the challenges are still there, but the come down from them or the experience of their child is different. And so their experience of the stress within themselves and their body is different too. And then they go, oh, we had a big fight in the morning before breakfast, got the kids dressed, and then the car ride was so easy. Whereas it used to be antsy and they're like, oh, fighting all the way through and then dropping the kids off. No, but then the kids won't leave the car either. So you got that fight to get them into class. But I had feedback where the mum will experience the angst in the morning, able to work through it very quickly, and then enjoy the rest of the day. Literally, the car ride is easy and fun. Just like, what happened? This never happens. So it's about understanding what's there holding you back so that you're able to experience the freedom within yourself. And when you do, your kids are different, your pets are different, your partner's different, your extended family is different, and your friends are different. And they didn't do the work, you did.
Mm.
Hmm.
So, how does that translate to the example you used when we started this podcast? And you talked about the household budget, because that can be a topic where people do suppress, put under the carpet.
Mm.
And when you're talking about creating that angst about the budget or the
Mm-hmm.
stress about the budget or the
Mm-hmm.
finances, have you seen many examples because of your history in that area of being so
Mm.
good with that, but people don't want to do it? It is a pain point for a lot of people. How do you use EFT in that realm?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because anyone that wants to work on budgeting, and every now and then I still get a request, I make it compulsory to tap with me. I
Mm,
don't tap with you. You go somewhere else and do your budget and do your refinance in 2 years' time because voila, same cycle, right? Yeah, because I need to work with the symptom. And the symptom is here I am. the mortgage brokers told me to work with you because they're not going to do another refinance for me another 2 years' time. This is just crazy. Like, get with the program. You just need to like lock it in. And they're like, I don't know how to lock it in because I've been doing this for the last 10 years. Right. And so that's all they need to tell me is that pattern. And I start tapping on that pattern. And the body will bring up incidences from the past or memories from the past. And I'm following the cues on the body and the subconscious as to where it's leading me. I'm trying to find Hansel and Gretel's house, but I'm picking your brain, picking your body. It's not the other way around. All right, the answer's inside of you. And so when you're sitting there going, I don't know what to do with the money. I don't know where my money goes. It's around and about. I don't want to look at it. I hate taxes. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And you're angsty. I'm like, great. Where is it in your body right now? You're like, oh, it's in my chest. And it feels like this angst. And it's like an 8 out of 10 tension. And I'm like, great, let's start. That's all I need, the symptom. And then the iceberg gets underneath the water. That's where my work lies. I don't know where we're going to go. You don't know where we're going to go. And that's the fun feel part as much as it is confronting.
Mm. That let's say you explore that road in a consult. You've got that person with that thing, or it could be, the mum with the kid at school, whichever example. And you explore that because of, again, you said your coaching background where you did many years of working deep with like coaching, landmark, and the CBT stuff that you would have learned. You're asking questions essentially to find that origin story, whatever that origin is for that. You've shone the light on it and you've found the origin.
Yeah.
And we'll call it the finance one, right? Dad did something when you were a kid and money doesn't grow on trees, whatever the belief was, right, that they had.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you find that part of their body. How does then the tapping work to come out of that? Can you share that with the listeners so they've got a sense of what they would experience or do?
Once I've found the memory, right, what happens inside tapping is that whilst the tapping's happening, there's a lot of hypnosis going on as well, right? So you're in a trance-like state, but you're 100% awake and participating. I'm asking questions. And I need to just ask and understand what is it that you've contributed to that particular memory, right? If Dad said to you, I'm so sorry, but we can't buy a flute because it's just too expensive. Back then it was like $250, right? Can't do it. I know you love the flute. We'll still need to borrow the school's flute for your lessons, right? We can't spend $250 on a flute. Now, that's not traumatic for anybody, but in that moment, it anchored for my client, oh, I'm not good enough and he doesn't love me enough. Now, as an adult, you don't think that. You're like, of course my dad loves me. But in that moment, as a 10-year-old asking your parents to buy you a flute, and they say no, and they give you a good reason about it, they haven't abandoned you or rejected you, they just said no to request, you've interpreted that as they don't love me, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve the things. And I really love my flute, but why don't they support me in things I really love? And then here you are as a 10-year-old with that truth in your body and in your mind, and it anchors. And then here you are as a 35, 45, 50-year-old with the same truth that you created as a 10-year-old, and you're going, why can't I, I've got so much money, but why can't I buy myself good things? Why do I have to always go to op shops? Why do I do this? Or why do I feel really guilty and I have to justify buying myself a new car? I've got the money, but I can't. And something's holding you back. You go, this is crazy, right? And your wife or partner say to you, you're crazy too. It's like your children's like, come on, mom. It's like, hello. You got heaps of money, but you're acting like you're on Centrelink. Like, hello. Okay, so that's how it controls behavior. But I had to find a 10-year memory, like literally the source of it. as to how come it got anchored that specific way. And insight tapping, whilst you're there, you're reliving it. It's what we call a trauma capsule. So as you're reliving it, you're reliving all the memories. The tears well up, the heart wrenches, the disappointments there, the upsets there. And you're going, I can see myself with my head down and shoulders drooping. Right. So it's sensory and you're reliving it. So in that moment, I've got you as a 10-year-old speaking to me. I'm accessing your 10-year-old memory. So all the interpretation's very simple. It's a 10-year-old that made up the mind, not a 55-year-old, a 10-year-old. And so that's when the unhooking and the transformation happens. And then we reaffirm it with something positive. That's when positive affirmation works at the end, not on top of, right? You can't fix a yucky mud cake with fondant, icing, sprinkles, really lovely candles. At the end of the day, the cake's dry and yucky. Right. So we're going straight to the cake. But I need to find that cake where it got installed.
Yeah. It's a perfect example. And look, that's literally the work that I like doing as well. I don't use EFT, but in the life coaching work I've done for so many years in the retreats, we really have to do that. You have to find that origin and shine the light on it, and then you're dealing with the right thing, because otherwise you're just dealing with other stuff, and it never actually really shifts. And then
No.
we've all got different layers of the onion. We've all got different things that have happened to us in our lives bringing up. And it doesn't have to be the most biggest, massive traumatic thing, because what I've also found is some people compare themselves to others. And in that comparison, that again can be a suppression. Oh, they've had it worse than me. My thing wasn't that bad. But that thing that wasn't that bad is still an 8-year-old belief that's running in an adult.
Correct.
And that can be affecting their life. It can stop them achieving that goal, or getting that health goal, or getting that budget right, or getting that ideal partner. Why can't I find the right man? Why can't I find the right woman? You know what I mean? And those behaviors happen right from early. So I'm definitely hearing you. And
Yeah.
for our listeners out there that aren't sure of what this conversation with me and Faye is, it's really one of the deepest conversations about where true healing happens, is finding that origin, whatever the modality is. And Faye, it sounds like you do that really, really well. So
Yes,
if
and I
you
do
sort
all
of,
this online. So it works marvelously online. It's a beauty how our energy fields can converge, and it's beyond the physical. Right.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you 100%. And it's got to be done well. It's still got to be done that, with that person, you're with them in that moment, and you're using the technique where, yeah, they're tapping and going into that process. I love that. So if someone did want to work with you, Faye, before we wrap up this episode, how would they find you? Because I know you don't really have websites and stuff. You just
No, I still don't have a website. So
yeah,
so you can Google me. So I've got a
yep,
huge web presence though. So Living Well with Fay with one
yep.
E. Oh, no E. Fay is my name. Or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook under the same handle, which is Living Well with Fay.
Yeah, I love that. All right. And look, for our listeners, Realms of Power is really about what they can actually do. So if they didn't want to reach out or have that conversation with you directly, what's some wisdom through all of your history that's led you up to now? If you could give a message to people to how they could just stand in their power, turn their power on, and live a better life, what would that message be?
Gosh, it's really about feeling through what your body's telling you. And it's about coming back into your body and feeling through it and acknowledging how you are, how you're not, and it's still okay. And the next step after that is actually commit to the action. That's the
Yeah,
hard part.
yeah, it is. But you're right. If you're not committing to the right action, feeling into the body is so important, and tapping literally is directly tapping into the body field. A lot of my work is actually, I use TAP as an acronym of True Aligned Power, and that tapping technique is getting that access to the body. So your body doesn't lie in the end of the day. And after 26 years of feeling the spine and the nervous system, it really is that mind body connection. My hands are on every single day and tapping into their field. So it does
Yeah.
show so much. They're like, how did you know that was sore? And I'm like, dude, I just do that all day.
Yes,
So
okay. Exactly. Yeah.
I think what you just said is actually probably more profound than people might get. So yes, they've still got to take the action, do the right thing, but that's beautiful wisdom. So look, Faye, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on our show. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, it's great to have you on.
No, thanks for the conversation. Really enjoyed myself.
Yeah, and to our listeners again for tuning into Realms of Power, please share these episodes. It's someone might listen to this episode that and then they contact Faye and it changes their life. So it's one person at a time, and that really comes from sharing this sort of information out there. So thanks to our listeners. Have an awesome day. See ya.